Hello, my name is Ben Farrow, and the title of this paper is Demographic Challenges Ahead for Construction Education. I serve on the faculty of the McWhorter School of Building Science at Auburn University, and I'm also the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and International Programs within the College of Architecture, Design, and Construction at Auburn. So for those of you that have been around academia for a few years, you remember the recession of 2007 through 2009 and how we struggled to recruit students during that period of time who didn't know what the job future may be in construction management. But since that time, we've had a steady flow of students in most construction management programs, almost getting to a point where we expect next year's class to be the same or bigger than the previous year's class. And the message of this paper really is that those days are ending. If we look ahead 10 years, we're going to have fewer college students available to pursue all majors and even CM in the decade ahead. So we're going to look back at some of the things that recession really started, but the facts are that they're basically the fertility rates dropped and there are fewer students, and those students will actually reach college age in 2026. And if you look at an overall average, the number of students will fall 15% across the U.S. in 5 years. In some areas, this percentage will be much higher. In other areas, it will be much lower. And a lot of this work is based on the work by Nathan Grahl. He wrote a book called Demographics and the Demand for Higher Education that's extremely popular in recruiting circles. And I would encourage you to check that out if this interests you further. So I looked at really three research questions. One is, what are the potential impacts on the number of graduates for programs in 5 specific states? I chose these states because they all had programs of construction management, and they also represented 5 of the 8 census regions that were examined by Grahl. In addition to sort of looking at some detail level changes, I wanted to know if there would be some programs that would win and some programs that would lose in these demographic shifts. And then finally, I wanted to begin to explore whether or not there might be opportunities within certain demographic segments for some of these universities. So Grahl's book really details 3 main shifts that are going to impact the number of college students at each university. First is fertility rates, and as I mentioned, either possibly due to financial pressure, a pressure perhaps for both parents to work outside the home. There was a drop in fertility rates that occurred after the recession of 2007 through 2009. Grahl also looked at areas where people tend to immigrate, and his book suggests that people that immigrate to the U.S. tend to immigrate to specific areas, often to areas that have people that are like themselves. And then he also looked at interstate migration and how people are moving within the U.S. with the idea that there's some growth in the South and West and not so much in other areas. And one of the key impact areas is the East North Central area, where the number of students may fall as much as 90,000 students. That's a huge number of students looking forward. All the while, our demand for construction graduates continues to be strong. If you look before the pandemic, the National Bureau of Labor Statistics predicted that growth for construction managers would be 10%. 10% growth in demand for CMs with a 15% decline in the number of students available is poor math. So I used a couple of different sources for this work. First, I used the National Center for Education Statistics. People call this the IPEDS database to determine existing number of college graduates in programs. And then Grahl's work really has a formula for the demand for college looking in the future. And it's basically just the probability a group of students in a given location will attend college times the number of those students, all summed together to determine the future demand for education. And so as I ran those numbers in the different areas and applied them to different universities, this is the chart for selected schools. And you can see the predicted total change of students. This is on a per year basis. So for example, Auburn and Illinois State are both projected to lose 22 and 12 students per year respectively. And on one hand, you could say some of these numbers are small. On the other hand, if you multiply this over 4 years, because these trends will continue, Auburn could be facing losing 88 students over 4 years. That is approaching a full graduating class for us, similar with Illinois State. So the numbers could be significant as they add up over time. Then I looked at, would there be winners and losers? And again, I've included selected schools, and if you want to look at all the schools I considered, please feel free to look at the paper further. But most schools will lose. There are a few winners. According to Graw's data, the winners tend to be schools that have a strong brand recognition, that are highly ranked, and that are in a growing demographic areas. And then finally, I looked at, are there opportunities in other demographics for us to expand recruiting circles? And I think this suggests that perhaps there are. For example, in Alabama, you can see that the number of Hispanic students is expected to increase by 90%. In Washington State, where small growth is projected, they have relatively large growth in other demographics in areas. So I do think that this perhaps begins to point to the other opportunities that may be available for schools that may suffer as a result of this demographic decline. So in conclusion, the competition for students will increase. There will be less college-ready students beginning in 2026. Competition will increase both for universities and for programs within those universities. And enrollment's going to fall at a lot of universities, and this will be significant for some schools, especially in the Northeast, Southeast, and East Central. The changes could be significant. There will likely be fewer universities, fewer CM programs looking forward than there currently are now, short of further demographic or other shifts. So on the micro level, it starts to sort of beg some questions for construction management programs. One is, should we look at how we hire faculty differently? Should we target more professors of practice and adjuncts in lieu of full-time hires? It really points, I think, to the need to work closely with industry, develop robust methods for recruiting new students, and for making sure that people understand CM can be a very inclusive environment for a variety of demographics, and for us to continue to explore that with students. And then finally, should we explore things like certificates and badges in lieu of degrees or in addition to degrees, so that struggling programs can better attract students? I thank you for listening to this session. And if I can answer any questions or help you in any way as you pursue your next generation of constructional leaders, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for your time.